Well, welcome to our seminar on behind the scenes, creating e-learning games using interactive video. It's good to see you all today. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit about who's doing a presentation today. I'm Louise, Pasterfield, Managing Director, and I'm going to introduce you to the topic. We've also got Kay Pasterfield, who's a Creative Director. He's going to be talking to you about how we actually did it. And we've got Jason, who actually did it, here to talk about the game and really how it works and how it functions, just really to give you an idea of how that's going to be. So, let's begin. I think to start, I just want to tell you a little bit about Sponge and who we are. We specialize in custom-made e-learning. So just to give you an idea of what we don't do, if you came to me and you said, look, I want to learn how to learn to do Excel, we'd say, we're not the company because you can buy things off the shelf for Excel, but come to us when you want to do really bespoke stuff. So that's really what we do. And what we do is we work with large organizations and we take their training and we transform it into absorbing e-learning programs so people can really use what they've just learned immediately into the workplace. So that's really kind of where we sit. Okay. We work with a wide cross-section of public and private sector organizations, and we do a lot of work in things like induction, skills and product knowledge. We also do things in terms of sort of health and safety and can't remember all the things. Compliance, yeah. Sorry, I had a brainwave there for the minute. But it's a wide variety of things, but usually it's all very, very bespoke. So, why are we doing this seminar today? And it seems that we really are quite sort of fascinated by games at the moment. You know, we've done 2 webinars on them that have been very well attended. People are really interested in it, and I think it's really speaking to the fact that we really want to engage with learners in new ways. In other words, the market's matured, you know, our learners have matured, their expectations are different. So how can we really do things that are perhaps more fun, surprising, enjoyable, challenging, engaging? And that's really what this talk is about today. Okay. So I think first of all, we're talking about games and we're also going to be talking about interactive video, but I want to talk about games first of all. And I think what really fascinates me about games is really what's possible with them. This is actually a screen grab from an e-learning demo we did with BP on data security. And this is just to say really that to me what's interesting is, how can we make it affordable? The games traditionally have cost millions of pounds to produce. They've also taken, so in many instances, years and years as well. So besides being expensive, they're a long time to produce as well. So how can we produce them quickly? How can we produce them effectively? So instead of something taking 2 years, we're talking about 8 weeks so we can get it out to our people and deliver it. Okay. And in addition, we really want to maximize technologies. We've been doing some really cool stuff with Storyline 2. When that first came out, Jason and his team really put it to the test. What game stuff can it do? And the demo we're going to be showing you in a minute is with Storyline 2. We've also been doing some really interesting things with Adapt, which is the open source multimedia tool. What games can we put into that? So technology-wise, we really want to be taking advantage of the technology that's here, it's changing, that's improving. I'm just going to show you some recent client work. This is an example from a Thomson Attune module, and you have to spot the hazards. And these are for people that are overseas and they've got to go into sort of hotels and accommodation and spot the hazards. But what I like about this game is that you have 3 lives, and if you click the wrong hazard, you blow a life. So I'm going to show you this one because I think this is a good example where illustration would be appropriate in a game. It would be very difficult to say photograph those cockroaches that you can see on the floor. So we can recreate reality. We can imagine it. So this is just a good example of that. Here we've got another example, a client example. This is a large retailer, and it's actually teaching their people on how they can use social media. This is the start of the game. Should they post it? Shouldn't they post it? Okay. And the final one is for a large global bank. They're introducing policies, and they want people to learn how to use the policies with people in their country. So here we have an African village, and you've got to navigate your way around it. You're going to have 4 missions, and the objective is to become a superhero. So I just want to show you the variety of things that we're actually currently doing at the moment. Okay. But when is it appropriate then to use video? How does this contrast? And I'd say that video really is about reality, and illustration is a representation of reality. So if authenticity is important to you, if sort of people interactions are important to you, then video is going to be a great way to do that. And we're not just talking about any old video, we're talking about interactive video. And with interactive video, you're not just sitting there, you're actually taking part. The viewer takes part in interactive video. It influences what's going to happen. So this is a really great example here. It's from the BBC, and it's a World War I game. And you can be a soldier in World War I. You can go on expeditions. There's branching scenarios. You can identify and explore things, and it's gamified. So if anyone wants to look at that, that's a really good example of what we mean with interactive video and a game. So I have a question to ask you right now. So I want you to stop and think, and I just want to ask you this. Can you think of a business challenge that could be addressed with an e-learning game? So I want you to stop and think about that. I'll give you a minute. Just consider that. What topic, what subject, where do you think it would work well? Okay, got something in your mind? That's good. Can you see if any of these are things that you thought of? We actually asked this question on a webinar in October. We had 170 people on this webinar and asked them the same question. These are the things that they came up with. But I think really what fascinated us was what's the emphasis? And we see that there's a lot of compliance, health and safety, data security. There seemed to be a preponderance of compliance, essentially learning. So what really got us interested is, well, where could we use games that weren't in those areas? And we came up with the idea of, well, what if it was more management and leadership? What if it was management skills? So in a minute, we're going to show you a demo we created in a different area using interactive video and a game, because we're out to push the boundaries. That's what we're trying to do, to consider other ways that we can use it. Okay. So the challenge we set ourselves is this. How can we develop an e-learning game on management skills using interactive video? Okay, and we're going to see what we did in a minute. So what are we covering today? We're covering game considerations. Well, when should you be using games? When is it appropriate? How we approached it, the different development stages, and how we all work together. The interactive video demonstration, which Jason's going to do, so you're going to see what we actually created, which is a kind of a proof of concept specifically for LT15. And then we're going to just talk about some takeaways as well, just some things that you can take away. Just to say as well that if anyone is interested in having this presentation afterwards, if you want to fill in your evaluation form, which you'd have in your seat, or if not, I know Mel's around and she can hand you some. If you fill in the evaluation form, more than happy to send you these notes and send it to you via email. So when are games appropriate in e-learning? When should we be using them? Well, it's really when there are potentially real risks or real consequences that could be at stake. So, for example, safety is a good example, because obviously if you're caught in a fire or whatever, you need to know how to get out. That's a good example. Life is another example. Say you're a doctor working in A&E and you need to decide, am I going to work on patient A or B? Money, if say you're in sales and you make a certain decision and you could lose money, or you could personally lose money. Or say a job. If you manage someone badly, you could end up losing employees. That could affect the business. That could affect the income of the business. So the one we're focusing on today is going to be things that relate to a job. But those are examples of when games are appropriate. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is this thing about games thinking. Now, this is something that Carl Kapp, who's a university lecturer at Bloomsburg University in the States, often talks about. And Carl Kapp says that game thinking is more than just about badges. We're not just about those rewards. Sometimes you can play games and it's about the experience, not necessarily about the winning. And he says there are 4 key things we should bear in mind. The first is engagement, and considering engagement through storytelling. The second is autonomy. Give people freedom to do what they want, to choose, explore, create mystery, suspense. The third is progression, and how you're actually progressing, how you're doing, your achievements. And this can include scores and badges and levels, but people want to know, well, where are they at? And the fourth is mastery. Learn to master tricky, difficult situations. Do them again and again, so you learn to do it in a really safe environment. So these are 4 things that you just may want to hold in your mind. Okay. I'm now going to give you over to Kate, and she's going to tell you a little bit about how we started it.
Thank you. So I've called this little section where we just show you the kind of process we went through, how we went from shrugs to nods. So that kind of, for me, encapsulates the creative process. Quite often when you work on a creative project, you don't really know sort of where to begin. There's lots of uncertainty. No one really knows. And somehow you end up with something where people can see it and they go, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. I see. So that's why I've called it that. And I'm going to just take you through from the process we went through from start to finish before Jason shows you the game. So we knew we needed a focus. We knew we wanted kind of management, but we knew it was kind of too broad to just talk only about management in the abstract. So we went for this as our focus. The subject was difficult conversations. And the outcome, this would be traditionally a kind of learning outcome for anybody who's used to writing learning objectives and outcomes. Managers will be equipped with the skills and confidence to address difficult situations, minimize conflict or avoidance, which can be a problem with difficult conversations. Sometimes people go way too far and cause damage. Other times people avoid confronting the situation altogether. So we wanted to kind of get some of that nuance in there a little bit. And we wanted people to establish a resolution. So that was the kind of lens that we took to move through our interactive video game. Now, I'm sharing with you in retrospect the process that we went through, but we didn't have this roadmap when we started this. Clearly, we've created learning. Clearly, we've created games. Clearly, we've done video. We've never actually put all of those things together. And we had a couple of new hats to wear and a couple of different skills. So we sort of went really enthusiastically into this project and we're really excited about it, but we didn't have this roadmap. So I'm sharing it with you so that if you do this project, you can have the benefit of this. We started off with some source content, which is quite easy for us because we have access to a lot of client materials. So that's what I said about that focus. Then we moved into the story, and I'll show you that in a second. Following that, we did scripting. So that's where we're really looking at the storyboard and the logic, and that's where we focused on branching scenarios. Then we built an interactive storyboard. We did casting and design, visual design. We carried out the shoot. And I think what's interesting to note here is that the shoot happens quite far way down. And the temptation with doing video is to kind of leap in and start filming things, but actually the pre-production makes all the difference to its success. Post-production followed that. And then we had the game build and implementation of the sound. And sound can really help lift the experience. So you'll notice in that process that I had lots of little speech bubbles all the way around. One of the things that I'm calling the secret weapon in the arsenal of this kind of creative project success was tons of collaboration, because lots of decisions that a writer might make could impact what the developer's going to do, could impact how the film's going to be shot, the location. So we had to have a kind of iterative and continuous conversation amongst the key people. So who were that core team? We had the writer-director, which, if you're coming from an e-learning background, would probably be the realm of the instructional designer. So we moved our instructional designers into this role. We had the video director, so he's not here today, but he was making decisions on things like the shot list, the locations, the film equipment to use, the lighting, that kind of stuff. We had the games developer, which is Jason, who's going to be telling you how he kind of brought everything together and created the interaction and the game elements. We had a visual designer working on the look and feel, and of course we had cast. So let me just tell you about the story. This is a really important start point, and it's harder than you might think, actually, to distill down what this is going to be about. But we had some fun with this. Here's what our story was in a kind of pre-seed form. New to post manager tackles repeatedly late to work employee dilemma. Tricky, okay? We were hoping that this would be quite a thorny issue. Someone who's wanting to impress on their first day as a manager, but has to deal with this employee. So we've set up tension. And then a key thing that you want to know about story is that a really important consideration is who's going to tell it. You need to know who your narrator is. And in this instance, we made the decision that it was going to be you, the learner. And we've mentioned about moving through the scenario. This is what we call in film the kind of point of view, the first person point of view. And the big difference here about this versus, say, a fly on the wall third person approach is that it enables people to experience rather than witness the action, which makes it much more engaging for them. So we moved into script development, which was started with branch mapping. So I've mentioned that this was fundamentally underpinned by branching scenarios. And what you can see here is just a sticky note exercise that we do before we start writing dialogue. So inputs are all at the top. You move down through the different options, and the choice architecture that comes in here leads the person to the eventual outcomes. That's shown a bit more clearly here. So these are the sort of branches, and this is a pre-production mock-up of the interactive, which I'll show you next actually, the interactive storyboard. So once we decided on all of our branches, we then went into building a complete working model of the interactive storyboard before we did any filming so that we could figure out if there were going to be any plot holes or gaps in the logic. We might have to then go back and revisit the script and change people's conversations with each other. And that was a really invaluable part of the process. It also meant we could share it around a lot more people and get input before we went and filmed. So then we came on to the visual design side, and what we did there was really look for something intuitive. We were building this in Storyline 2 to really push what was possible in that tool. And we wanted there to be no navigation. So some of the best games we play, they don't tell you that you've got to start from here and go to here. You kind of discover it, but it's because the design is intuitive and user experience led. So you can see some of the decisions here, simple kind of question in the middle, really easy areas and chunks to kind of make your decision, and really few words. One of the key things we wanted to do was try and keep it quite pacey with very little words. We also wanted, thinking back to that Carl Cap thing, the autonomy to explore. So that was where the choices came in. So we did some casting. Now, we, in the end, chose just people from the office because this was a proof of concept, and we just wanted, you know, I threw myself in. Our project manager, head of project management, she threw herself in. So we had a couple of us doing it. But the key question clients often ask us is, we're doing a video shoot. Should we pay for actors or should we use our own people? And for this kind of experience, what you want is people who are comfortable on camera, and that can be quite difficult sometimes with people who aren't used to doing it. You want people who can learn their lines and deliver them, but you also want someone who can actually take direction and then adjust their performance accordingly, because the director knows what they're trying to get out of that person. So I would say if you've got someone in your work who can do that, great. If you think that might be a struggle to find, it might well be worth investing in real actors, because they should be able to do that, and they'll screen test well. Okay, so then we did the lights, camera, action, we did the shoot, and I think the main thing for anybody here from sort of film background who's interested in what we did here, the main things to note are that we used a chest-mounted GoPro, the GoPro because it's easy to maneuver and move around an office, and a kind of traditional first-person camera that's used a lot in sports photography and cinematography. Chest-mounted because if you put it on someone's head, they move around too much, and it would be really dizzying and disorienting, so we had to put it somewhere that looked like you were, you know, interacting with them, but not too disorientating. And we used natural light, and we used our own offices. So it was a really kind of little bit sort of rough and ready, low budget kind of shoot. If we were to do this for a client, we would obviously get the appropriate, you know, crew and sound equipment and things like that. So then we did our post-production, and really I think the only thing to mention here is that a lot can be done in the edit, so coloration, all that stuff. Again, like, because this was a really kind of low proof of concept thing, we didn't do too much in the post-production. We just cropped the video and kind of got it into the game. So I'm going to hand over to Jason now, who's just going to tell you a little bit about the game build before we start playing.
Thanks, Kate. So for the game itself, like I say, is there any developers in the audience that you will know that this is where the actual magic happens. So up to now, everything's very flat. We've had some visual ideas of what the screen should look like, and we used Articulate Storyline 2 to build this, mainly because a lot of our client work, they use Articulate, and it's something they're aware of, and also it lends itself very naturally to branching scenarios. And with the new features like being able to pause and resume the timeline, it helps you create those points where you can stop the action, make a branching decision, and then move on. So I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So this is the demo we came up with. So as we said, can you manage difficult situations? So what I'll do first is give you a sort of pre-see. So we tried to make it as, you could probably turn down a tiny bit, to make it so there wasn't a huge amount of preamble. In most games, you don't want to put lots of text in front of people, because then that immediately creates a barrier to getting involved. So we immediately set up this simple scenario. So what type of manager are you? We're asking that question for people to explore and find out through their own interaction with the game whether they fall into any of these 4 categories. And mainly the reason we put them up front is because if you came out at the end of it and found out you were a model manager, or say a decision dodger, someone who couldn't actually deal with the decision, then you know you really want it to be one in the end, which is the model manager. So it gives you that incentive to go back and involve yourself in that situation and try and become the model manager at the end, because everyone likes a gold star. So, but as I say, the impetus isn't necessarily to win, it's to explore. So you could really want to be that model manager, but it's almost as much fun to become the desktop dictator and really wind her up. So the first thing I want to do is show you what happens if you do decide to take the sort of less than optimum path. So here we are, this is our scenario. So all good games have a scenario or a backstory, and this is our very simple one. So just through the medium of a really small email, you now know that you're a first day manager, and you've got to go out there and deal with it. And they believe in you. So let's see if you can do a good job. But as I said, on purpose, a lot of people that have played this wanted to be a dictator just to see what it felt like, because ordinarily you can't shout at your project manager.
Listen, it's come to my attention that Danielle's coming late again today. Would you mind sorting this out? I think we need to have a word with her. It's becoming a really big problem. Can you take care of it? Thanks.
Right, so here's our dilemma. We need to go on our first day and sort out a repeatedly late one. By throwing in this countdown timer, it gives an impetus for action. So it could be very sort of coy and send an all-staff email, or I could go and have a go at her at a desk. So let's try that route. So we're going to go out into the workspace in front of our co-workers.
Well, hang on a minute. Do you not think maybe we should discuss this somewhere else? It's a little bit inappropriate around everyone else in the office.
Yeah, so she's kind of, obviously I've done the right thing there, but I want to make a statement. So we're going to issue her overruling in front of all her co-workers at her desk.
Right, I'm sorry, but you're making me feel really uncomfortable. I'm not happy about this, so if you don't mind, I'd like to discuss this in front of HR.
Right, that didn't go too well, did it? So obviously we've made a bit of a hash up there. So luckily, because this is only a game, like that I haven't really offended Danielle, as we'll call her today. So we have a chance to reverse that and we'll redact that situation. So this we'll have a take two on that. So luckily, like Groundhog Day, you can go back to the beginning and see what happens if you choose the correct.
Well, hang on a minute. Do you not think maybe we should discuss this somewhere else? It's a little bit inappropriate around everyone else in the office.
Okay, we'll get to the office this time because obviously that's what you should have done.
I always think my animals late. I've been late a couple of times, but I would not say that always, and I'm not the only one that's late. It just feels like I've been singled out and I'm the only one who's been picked up for this. That just doesn't seem fair. I'm really, really not happy about this at all.
As I said, she's not a trained actress, but making her look angry was really easy. It turned out she had that in her locker. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll find out why she is being late all this time.
Well, to be honest, I just keep using my key card. I lost it a few months ago, and I've lost it again. It is embarrassing, and I felt embarrassed about owning nothing at it. So I've just been sort of hanging around waiting for someone else to turn up so I can get through the door. And of course, if they're late, that makes me late.
So there's the explanation. So we can either just ignore that and just send her back to work and therefore dodge and not resolve anything. We could still have a go at her, but we've seen that obviously isn't going to work. She's quite fiery. So this time, let's give her a key card. And fingers crossed we'll resolve the situation.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And, I feel so much better now after talking to you about it. And I'm just really glad that you're giving me a key card and I can just crack on with things and just forget it's happened. So thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Sweet.
Well, on the plus side, you did manage to give Danielle some new keys. So certainly the issue got resolved there. But unfortunately, she has come to me and she's quite upset. So I think the conversation could have gone better.
So, although we eventually resolved it, because we took those wrong steps beforehand, the logic is in the game to know that we didn't take the optimum golden path. So we've ended up becoming a model manager because we got there in the end, but perhaps not the best way we could have done it. So that now is going to give me a bit of feedback, explaining maybe I should try that again and try and become that model manager. So it gives you that incentive to go back. But you can, as I say, you can go back and just try as hard as you can to get her to storm off, or you can kick her out of the office. We end up shooting about 5 different endings, so she can leave the office very happy, leave it really disgruntled, she storms out. At one point you can throw her out the office. So if you want to go and have a play on this, feel free. Our stand is at number 112. You can come along and have a go, or if you want to find out some more information, it's on our demo area. So now we've got the feedback telling us what we should really be looking at when we're looking at a positive conversation, which is maybe being a bit more timely, using appropriate tone, i.e. don't go to her desk and have a go at her. So you've got the chance to replay it. So there are the learnings in there. And if you want to go back and find out more about the optimum way of doing it, and obviously you want to try and become that model manager, so it gives you that incentive to go back and play the game again. So if you can think of any, as we said, some other occasions where this could be appropriate with soft skills or any other situation, then you can see where that learning is there for being explored and seen through. I'll pass you back for a summary now with Louise. Thanks very much.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Jason. That was That was good. What I'd like to do is just maybe highlight a few takeaways for this talk this morning. And I think the first is consider interactive video for when there are people interactions, like within your organization, within other people, with staff, but also externally with customers and suppliers. It can work very well in those instances. And also really in terms of creating branching scenarios, they're fantastic, they're really fun, but they do add a lot of richness and complexity. So be prepared for production to take longer. That's both the writing, the development, the filming. It does multiply and add some cost. Building an interactive storyboard was a real success. When we did that, it really helped us to work through what we were doing. Normally in standard e-learning modules, we will just do a still storyboard, but this helped, and it really helped to avoid any plot holes, and we were able to experience the game before it was filmed, so it actually was very useful and worked well. And I think, again, collaboration with the core team is absolutely essential. I know Kate showed you that circular diagram. Well, we went back and we revisited things, and we went through that circular diagram a few times while we were creating it. I hope that's really sort of helped and given you an idea of how you can use interactive games, interactive video in games. And if you want to see more, if you want to have a go, come to see us on stand 112. If you're interested in getting the PowerPoint notes from this talk, remember your evaluation form which you have on your seat. And finally, the other thing we're doing is you can win money towards an e-learning module if you're thinking of having them done, so you can come and see us on our stand about that. But I hope that's really helped. Thank you very much for your time.